You're listening to the Better Relationships After Baby podcast, where I believe your relationship can be stronger than ever after having a baby. It just takes tools, conversation, and support to help you get there. I'm Chelsea Skaggs, certified life and relationship coach, mom of two, and survivor and thriver of tough relationship challenges after babies. I'm committed to helping couples just like you improve your communication skills, connection points, and personal confidence so that you can have the life and family you've always dreamt of. Now, let's get to today's episode. Welcome back, parents, to another episode of Better Relationships After Baby. I usually am recording this podcast in my office where it is nice and quiet and no one is bothering me. But if you watch my Instagram and you follow my stories, you might have seen that we recently found two little kittens on the side of the road and we took them in. And so we have one that is just exploring all over my desk today, joining the podcast episode, but he is just like, he's so cute and playful that I can't kick him out of the office. I did not grow up with cats. When I lived in Arkansas, I was part of Teach for America and moved to Arkansas from my hometown of Ohio, or my home state of Ohio. And I remember then my husband was working at this office and they were going to shoot a cat that was in the barn because it wasn't catching the mice. It was like too nice of a cat and it was not catching the mice in the barn. And so the owner was like, I'm just going to go out and shoot this cat and get rid of it. And we were like, oh my God, no. So that was the first cat I ever had. Her name was Katniss Everdeen. And my grandpa actually still has her. And that was my first introduction to cats, guys. And then we had another one when my son was little and we rehomed her to some friends when we went to live on the road for a couple of years in our RV. And now I was out geocaching with my 7-year-old. If you've not heard of geocaching, it is a fun activity that is pretty low lift. And you follow this map and the GPS coordinates to find these like little boxes that have a log of all the people who have found it. And people leave like tiny gifts and toys in there. And it's just kind of like a treasure hunt. I have a 7-year-old who really, really loves it. And so we just pull up the app when we're in a new area and look for a couple geocaches. But the other day, we were looking for one near our house, and it was supposed to be like magnetized on a stop sign at an intersection. And we got out, we're in the country. It was out on a country road. So not like a busy intersection, but we parked the truck, we got out, we started looking around and we heard meowing. And so we looked around. I did not see any cats. There was no movement. I said to my son, and now I'm a little embarrassed, but I was like, maybe it's just a bird that sounds like a cat. And we were getting ready to walk away. And I just saw these two bright blue little eyes coming through the weeds. And it was a lot of overgrown grass by a creek. And there were two kittens there. And so I told the kids, like, oftentimes mom is coming back. We want to make sure, like, the best thing is for these kittens to be with their mom. But we came back 3 times throughout the day. And then right before bedtime, they were still shaking. They looked like they hadn't eaten. They were crying out. And so we ended up taking them in. And that was my long story to say there is some background noise today. It's because I cannot kick this little kitten out of my office. We have 2 boys. The kids named them Silky and Sprint, and they have won my heart. I posted on Threads the other day that seeing your baby smile for the first time is like the most magical moment, but a close competitor is rescuing a kitten and then hearing it purr for the first time. So anyways, that is not what we're talking about today. We're actually going to be talking about mom rage, but I feel like I can tie this in. I'm going to try to make a connection. Taylor Swift loves cats. Taylor Swift is speaking up for taking down the patriarchy. And a lot of mom rage can come from unrealistic expectations, the mental load, gender roles, all of these things that are exhausting and overwhelming moms. And so that is why kittens were the perfect introduction. But, anyways, I am glad you're here and that you've stuck through this kitten story, because we're going to be talking about something that I did not even know was a thing when I became a new mom, and I was seething, and I was wondering how I could feel so upset and so angry during what was supposed to be the happiest time of my life. Something that it took a couple of years for me to be able to identify and hear the language for, and something that a lot of the moms that I tend to work with go through. I think that's because the moms and the couples that I work with tend to be people who want to find ways to build great teamwork. They want to know how to live life on their terms and know what's important to them. They want to have a partnership that feels supportive and respectful and, equal in the way that makes sense for them. And so a lot of my moms are dealing with mom rage as they navigate these waters of being a woman, of being maybe a professional, of being a partner, of being a friend, of being someone who enjoys social life, of being someone with a hobby, and also being a mom. So, we're going to explore this topic today about what mom rage is, why it happens, when it happens, how it can manifest. And then, obviously, I want to leave you with some takeaways and opportunities to improve your life. So, we'll be talking about ways to combat it, and not just combat it, but work through it when it does come up. But before we dive into those pieces, I just want to share that this is personal to me because I vividly remember a time when I felt completely overwhelmed. I know I often think of the kitchen in the house I lived in that our family lived in when we brought home our son, our first son. And that kitchen tends to be the place that I just remember the hardest feelings. I remember feeling overwhelmed, lonely, and angry a lot of times. I remember when my partner had just left for work. I was working part-time from home at the time, and I was home with our newborn. I had a newborn. You guys, I think every newborn comes with its own challenges. I had a newborn that didn't sleep, did not nap for long stretches of time, took forever to go to bed at night. He was very, very attached. He demanded a lot of attention. And I'm so thankful for who he is. He's a wonderful, wonderful kid, but he was a very hard baby. And so I was at home, day in, day out with our newborn, and it felt like everything was just spiraling out of my control. And I'm someone who has known how to keep control of things, how to lead the charge, how to be the organizer, how to be the one that kind of had the level head. And it just wasn't true for me in that season. The baby wouldn't stop crying, the house was a mess, and I had not slept properly in God knows how long. So I started to feel the intense anger bubbling up inside of me, and I didn't know how to handle it. I had been warned to know the signs of depression, right? The sadness, the not getting out of bed, the lack of energy. I tell you what, I had some energy. It was anger energy. It was big and loud and intense. And so I was very confused because I thought that any postpartum complications or emotions or signs that I needed some more support would have come in the low sadness, and that's not what I was feeling. But I came to find out, and I want you to know, if you're feeling this or you have felt this, that you're not alone. This is actually something that a lot of people go through. So, what exactly is mom rage? Simply put, it is a term that describes the intense anger or frustration that mothers can feel. And it's more than just having a bad day, it's a feeling. Hear that meowing. It's a feeling of being completely overwhelmed and out of control. And according to a study that was published by the Journal of Family Psychology, at least 60% of mothers reported experiencing mom rage at some point. And I actually think that that's a low statistic. Some other studies that I've looked at have shown that at least like 90% of moms reported severe overwhelm, which is definitely tied to mom rage. It's a common experience, and yet it's still rarely discussed openly. Let's look at how mom rage can feel in your body and mind. I remember these feelings. Physically, you might experience symptoms like a racing heart, tight chest, clenched jaw, tense muscles. Mentally, it can feel like a storm in your brain of anger and frustration and helplessness. You might have racing thoughts. You might feel a sudden urge of irritation over what should be very minor issues. You might experience an uncontrollable urge to yell or cry. Understanding these signs is the first step in recognizing and addressing mom rage. I am a mom rage person. It is definitely in no way as intense as it was in early postpartum. But sometimes when the cards align or the cards stack up and the stars align in all the wrong ways, I can still feel this way. And I actually remember being like, wait, not everybody wants to go drive in their car just so that they can scream really loud or cry or yell and get these emotions out. I did. I do. When I'm feeling that, that is still how I address those feelings. You can probably think of times in your life, if you're resonating with the topic of mom rage, of when and why this has happened. And there are several contributing factors. And this is a list that is probably not all of them, but hopefully enough for you to grasp onto something and start to identify what's going on so that you can make positive changes. Anxiety is a significant trigger for mom rage. That is so closely tied to feeling out of control, feeling nervous, feeling overstimulated, constant worry about your child's well-being, coupled with this pressure to be a perfect parent, definitely can lead to heightened stress levels and explosive anger. We also have the mental load, which you guys hear me talk about a lot if you're a regular listener of the podcast or you follow me on Peanut or on Instagram. But the mental load refers to the invisible, nonstop planning and organizing that typically falls on mothers. Now, I say typically because this is kind of it's typical. It's what is sometimes the default. And yes, you can actively change that. That is what I help couples do. But as far as the immediate, like if there is no intention around expectations and how you're going to manage this, this is typically falling on moms more than it does dads. Managing the schedules, remembering the appointments, keeping track of household tasks. These can be overwhelming and lead to frustration and anger when things don't go as planned or when you don't have a second to think about yourself because there is a constant to-do list of taking care of everything and everyone else. There's societal expectations because society is constantly putting these unrealistic expectations on moms to be perfect caregivers, whether this comes from TV shows, movies, social media. We have an increase in real behind the scenes lives of other people more than there were, 5 years ago when I started this business. But still, there is still an influx of the pressures to balance work and home life and personal well-being. And this can make us feel, rightfully so, angry and resentful. Sleep deprivation, a part of so many of the struggles of early motherhood. This lack of sleep is a common issue for new moms. This can significantly impact your mood, your emotional regulation. When you're exhausted, you don't have much of an ability to cope with stress. This makes you more susceptible to anger. It may happen more frequently or even to a higher degree. We have the lack of support in community. So feeling isolated and unsupported definitely intensifies feelings of frustration and rage. And we know there's not much of a village anymore like there used to be. We have so many more homes where they're two-parent, dual income homes. For a lot of us, our longer into retirement, or they're moving away for retirement. And a lot of us for jobs or other situations have moved away from home. And so more than I would say there was, 30 and 50 years ago, there's a lack of that village, of the support of community and friends and family who are available to help you through those stresses of motherhood. As much as we want to build that village, there are a lot of factors against us when it comes to a lot of us needing dual income homes. And if our friends are that way too, there's just less free time, and we are all trying to keep our heads above water. And then, all of that leads to just the unfulfilled needs. Many moms put their own needs last. And sometimes that's a choice. Sometimes that is because, maybe they're feeling really good about being a martyr, or they feel truly that their needs should be last. But also, there are things that, like, if it doesn't get done, it's not going to get done. And so, if mom doesn't step up and do it, what's going to happen? So this can cause those feelings of resentment and anger, whether it's your need for rest, self-care, emotional support. These unfulfilled needs can trigger mom rage. For me, it was a combination of these factors. I would fester and reel on things that felt out of my control. And I also had a lot of resentment toward my partner because even though I feel like I have an above average partner, he is wonderful. He is emotionally in tune. He is great to our kids. He's an awesome provider. Like, I would say I have an above average partner. And still, yet, I felt so much resentment about how much my life had changed. My brain chemistry had changed. The way I had to see the world and priorities changed. And I felt like that wasn't innately true for him. He was willing to step in and learn those things, but it wasn't the huge shift in his brain and body the way that it was mine. And these feelings tied with my unfulfilled needs left me in a place where I needed things. I was feeling things and I didn't know how to verbalize them, and they would just come out as anger and as rage. So I say that to say you're not alone if this resonates. And also, we don't want to stay in that place. I It's very important to me to normalize things like this so that you're not broken, dumb, a bad mom, a bad partner, but also that we say, okay, we have awareness. Now what? So we're going to move into some more of that and we'll get to the now what parts. But I think I want to just address really quickly that there are different challenges you're going to feel based on your situation. So if you're a stay-at-home mom, maybe it's the isolation and lack of adult interaction that can be significant triggers. You might be feeling like you are constantly caregiving without a break, feeling frustrated and angry about that. On the other hand, moms who work outside of the home face their own set of challenges. They're balancing their work and home life and expectations, dealing with guilt, and managing the outside societal expectations. Both scenarios can lead to feelings of anger and frustration if the underlying issues aren't addressed. So, how does your mom rage manifest? It can come out in various ways. Behaviorally, you might find yourself yelling or snapping at your loved ones over seemingly minor issues. Emotionally, you might feel intense guilt and shame after an outburst, which then can continue that cycle of rage. This kind of anger can strain your relationships and even model unhealthy behavior for your children. So, this is not to guilt you and say, oh my God, look what you've done. It's to say, okay, like, I need to find ways to address to understand the issue, to address the issue, and to continually create a healthier environment for my family. When I work with couples and when I work with moms one on one, it's not about perfection. It's about continually having more understanding and having more tools to develop a healthier environment for them and for their families. So this is not a call out of like, you need to fix this, you need to get this perfect. It's also important for us to look at how mom rage can be related to postpartum depression and anxiety. So, before I talk about strategies for management, I just want to say these conditions can significantly impact a mom's emotional state and can exacerbate. I love that word, and I have a hard time saying it. It can exacerbate those feelings of anger and frustration. So, if you're experiencing symptoms of postpartum depression or anxiety, which can include this mom rage, it can also include persistent sadness, fatigue, mood swings. Make sure that you do talk to your professional, talk to your midwife or OB, and just let them know if this mom rage is the predominant thing you're experiencing, or if it's part of other things. And there are several misconceptions, honestly, about mom rage that I think we need to address. One common myth is that good moms don't get angry. This is not true. Feeling anger doesn't make you a bad mom. It makes you a human. Another misconception is that mom rage means you don't love your children. In reality, what I have found is that the intense emotions that you're feeling and that come out often stem from the deep, deep care and responsibility that you feel for your children. It is out of a place of like ravenous love for them. Another misconception is that mom rage is just a phase that will pass without addressing it. And I want to say we don't need to ignore things. Ignoring it can actually make things worse. So it's crucial to acknowledge and manage these feelings. As I said, bringing it up with your medical provider or other, people that you're working with, and finding a space where you can address this. This might be coaching. This is something I'd love to help you with, identifying what is going on for you and how do we get to the root issue so that we can have solutions that are really going to be effective for you. And then how do we get on the same team with your partner? How do we build those strategies? If that's something you hear about this and you want to not do it alone, I'd be happy to help you. And some of the things that we would do if we were working together, or if you're just like, I'm going to take this podcast and I'm going to find improvement. First thing is self-awareness. It's always self-awareness. Get curious about your own triggers, almost like you're a detective studying your own behavior. I love this model because it takes out some of the judgment. It takes out some of the emotions, and you're like, okay, I am a third party. I am a detective, and I'm just studying this human's behavior. Or maybe, I'm an anthropologist, or I'm a psychologist. I'm just studying this human's behavior. Keep a journal, or maybe it's just like your notes in your phone to track the situations that trigger your rage. This can help you identify patterns and address the underlying issues. And then if you're working with me, or you're working with another professional, those are going to be really helpful examples to say, okay, I noticed this, and then this is what happened. This is how I felt. This is how I reacted. And what we can actually do is go back through that and replay it in a way that offers some healthier solutions. I love that. I love when we have really great examples to work with. But self-awareness is always the first step to this growth and healing. Number 2 is the communication skills. It is essential to express your needs and feelings to your partner. Learning to communicate effectively can be a game changer for you, for your inner dialogue, and for you and your partner. For me, this meant realizing that I needed to ask for help, and it was okay to share my struggles. I started sharing those with my husband. Then I started sharing a little bit more with a couple of trusted friends. Then I started sharing more in a coaching relationship so that I could have the tools to really work through that. Self-care. I laugh when I say the word self-care because it's like a little cringy to me, but it's also super important. It's cringy to me because it can be so overused and it can be made so fluffy. I don't think self-care is fluffy. For me, going and getting my nails done is not self-care. For you, that might be. That's fine. But self-care is knowing that you can prioritize moments for yourself, even if they're brief, even if they're not fancy. This can be journaling. This can be putting on your favorite song and dancing to let your body let out some emotions. This can be taking a walk around your block or down your street. This can be uh, anything that makes you feel connected to yourself and like you get to be the priority sometimes. This is really important. One, it's going to help your resentment because if you are constantly prioritizing and giving to everyone else and not yourself, of course you're going to feel resentful. So taking up a little space for yourself is good for everyone. It impacts the entire experience of the family. So please, if you need help figuring out what self-care is for you, I would love to help because I need you to have ways that you connect with yourself. For me, it is exercise and meditation. I am not someone who has naturally loved either of those things, but I know how helpful they are. Exercise pushes me, it pushes my body, it makes me mentally push through some roadblocks that I need to do to kind of disperse the pent up frustration inside of my brain. Meditation is not easy for me. I do not just sit down and hum and feel harmony with the world, but I use guided meditation. And if I can't sit still, I move around or I do a meditative walk. But it's a practice of understanding everything's okay. I get in tune with the big picture because I can get so caught up on the small picture. I can see the big picture is that my family is happy and healthy, and we have people that love us, and we have opportunities and experiences. When without that reminder, sometimes I can get so caught up on things like my husband left 2 pairs of boots by the door in the mudroom when really I think that there should only be 1 pair of shoes for each person in that space, and the rest of them should go in the basement. That is a small thing that I can get very hung up on and triggered by. And that's just one example of probably a million I could come up with. But meditation helps me see the big picture, and it really, really is a tool that I use. But again, you are going to find what self care is for you based on what you need, based on what is missing for you. If you're in a season where you're home with a baby a lot, then maybe going to the park or going to a play group is part of your self care because you're having conversations with other moms or other people. It's filling the need that is a gap in your life that is causing the resentment and anger. Okay, so that's how we backwards plan a little bit. Sorry, that was a bit of a tangent, but I really think self care has to be so individual and it has to be so explored. What is the gap you're feeling? Where is that coming from? And how can self care fill that gap so that that gap doesn't manifest in rage and anger and resentment and disconnect? All right. The reality is that you are going to have ruptures. You're going to blow up. You're going to have an outburst. If you do, it's important to repair the situation. This is, toward your partner, toward your family members, toward yourself, toward your baby. Apologize and talk through it about why this happened. This one, as your kids get older, this is going to be so important because you're going to mitigate the impact and also teach your children about handling emotions. You're going to normalize emotions for them. This is such a gift to give them. Then also this is an imperative piece of your relationship with your partner, with the other people close to you, that you don't hide from those rage moments, but that you're able to experience it and then say, you know what, I think I was really needing this, or I'm really missing this, or this is overwhelming me so much. And again, this creates an opportunity for repairing the relationship and addressing the core need. Of course, don't hesitate to seek professional support, whether this is counseling or coaching. They are, 2 different avenues to provide you with tools and strategies to manage mom rage and other factors of your life effectively. I really believe that asking for help is a sign of strength. It's a sign of commitment to your family. It's a sign of, wanting to continually become a better person or, a stronger version of yourself. This is not a weakness. No one was meant to do this motherhood journey on their own. So as we wrap up, I again just want to remind you, you are not alone in this. Mom rage is a common experience. It's okay to seek help, and it's important to figure out where it's coming from and how you can continually make things a little better, 5% better, step by step, understanding where it's coming from and what needs to be addressed to mitigate the rage you're feeling. If you are struggling with mom rage and you want to learn more about managing it and how to communicate that, reach out to me for coaching support because together we can work on the strategies. We can peel back the layers of the onion and figure out what's going on for you and what strategies are going to help you feel more confident, feel more in control, and overall improve your well being. So, I see you. I have been in your shoes. If you are resonating with this, it can get better. And that is a journey, again, from self discovery to having support to using and managing techniques that are going to help you feel more connected to yourself, feel better about the expectations and routines in your home and with your partner, and just move through this season understanding what's most important to you and your family and how to prioritize that. I am rooting for you. I am rooting for your family. I am rooting for the future of what it means to be a woman, a partner, a mom, not only for us, but for our kids, for the kids that are going to see relationships and community and support in a different way because we are paving the path for them. If you enjoyed this episode, I would be so grateful if you take a minute to help spread the word. As a small business owner, shares and reviews go a long way. So share this episode with a friend, share it on your social media, and please leave a review if you haven't done so. This helps these messages get to more mamas, and you guys, that's how we change the world.